All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And so we will move to our motion to move into public hearings now. Kelly moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And we are in public. And the first one is about the IDP for special areas. And Sandra's returning. Maybe.
Jeff should be on. Here comes Maria.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Hi, Stuart. We will get to you as soon as we get finished our public hearing. Sorry.
Maria.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, hi. Up there.
Item 7.2.
Sorry, I don't have the agenda. Is that me?
Yes, it's the public hearing for the IDP with
yeah.
special areas.
Perfect. So for the special areas and County of Newell Intermunicipal Development Plan, we did receive a few comments, most of which are included in the RFD that I had written, but I also received a few in the meantime. So I'll just go over some of these. The Wheatland County commented on the overlap of the IDP plan. A lot of this has to do with the way the border is and how the river flows, and that's why there's an overlap between Wheatland County special areas and County of Newell. We received a letter that was also included in your package from a landowner within the IDP area, and he just really wants to make sure that agriculture prevails and that the lands are protected. A lot of those lands are environmentally sensitive, and he just really wants to make sure that council is aware of the importance of agriculture within that IDP boundary. And then another gentleman came in and spoke about access to lands within the IDP area and his ability to access lands. And I assured him that landowner rights will remain the same. Landowners within that area can or can't allow access how they see fit. So those were the three that were included in the RFD. We also heard from Alberta Transportation. They support the document, and they said that the document reflects sound planning principles and development strategies. They think that the policies regarding transportation adequately address the need for the municipalities to maintain safe and efficient transportation networks. So those are all positive comments. And then we also heard from TransCanada Energy, and they have three pipelines that cross the IDP boundary in different locations. So they would like to make several recommendations for the inclusion of maps and policies regarding oil and gas pipelines in the IDP boundary. It is their opinion that most of the policies proposed by, no, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I have to. They would like to see oh, I apologize. I have it highlighted. I just have to find the right section. Okay, so they just want policies that show that no development is being proposed near their pipelines. They want their pipelines to be highlighted specifically within the IDP boundaries. And so those were their concerns. Continue.
Questions for Maria, anyone?
Second and third reading.
No questions on the IDP for special areas? Wayne, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, how do we address the concerns of the oil companies there? I understand what they're coming from. They want to make sure that development does get close to them. So do they have a buffer zone already built into this? The way things are now, or do we have to add something into this?
Yeah, sorry, I could have expanded on those. I think TC Energy, they obviously have important infrastructure in the IDP area. I think that, and Dylan also, we discussed their proposed recommendations. I think that those are policies that are maybe better suited for a more localized plan, like an area structure plan, or a local plan where development is specifically happening around their infrastructure. We do have a map in the document that shows oil and gas infrastructure as a whole, not specific to an individual company. So I think that is reflected well in the document. And, you know, I think that it's good for us to always keep in mind where TC Energy is at the development stage when they are truly affected.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions? Clarence.
But really, we haven't really changed anything. It's when we formed the IDP. I mean, if there wasn't a neighbor, the rules would still basically be the same. Is that not correct? Like, I mean, just because it's moved in an IDP doesn't mean it's more restrictive or anything of that nature. It's just that you have to get agreement from your neighbor. But the rules are the same, are they not? Basically, there's no large differences as far as what regulations have to be followed.
No, the regulations and the setbacks will all be governed the same through development. And TC Energy did have some comments on our IDP with Cypress County as well. And I think their major concern was when they look at the document as a whole and they look at the oil and gas infrastructure map that we have, it's tough for them to discern what are TC Energy lines, what are other companies' lines, and through that response to them through the Cypress IDP, basically we did ensure them that, you know, all of the lines are shown on there, and at the development stage, we zoom in on our systems and through our processes and take a lot closer look at the exact infrastructure. The maps that are attached to the IDP document are kind of a reminder in that case, right? We know when we overlay the pipelines on the county of Newell, nothing is clear when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, but when we undertake the process for development, those things are accounted for there.
Thanks, Jeff. Maria, anything else on that first public hearing?
Is there, what I'd like to know though, Molly, is there a good understanding from the oil companies now that is the case and it really isn't affecting them very, very much at all?
Jeff?
Yeah, I think that there is from the oil companies. Some of this I think is maybe a little bit, you know, they tell two friends and they tell two friends. TC Energy has an actual planning consultant reviewing these documents for them. So I think there may be a little bit of a disconnect, but yes, I do believe all the oil and gas companies themselves are aware that we take into account their infrastructure very seriously through any development in the county, and maybe Maria can expand on that.
Yeah, well, exactly what Jeff said. And we're also mandated in the MGA and the subdivision and development regulations to provide referrals to affected parties. So anyone who's listed on title, any surrounding landowners are have the ability to comment, and we will submit any application to them so they can comment at the development permit stage. So they're always in the loop.
Good enough, Clarence?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the second public hearing notice, rural business to agriculture.
Okay, so this is a open or public hearing, sorry, for land use amendment to rezone just under 14 acres of parcel in total size of just over 30 acres from rural business back to agriculture. The rezoning is being done as a method to facilitate the replacement of an existing dwelling on the parcel. In the rural business district, we don't have the ability to have a second dwelling unit on a rural business parcel, and I believe we don't have the ability within our land use bylaw even to have one dwelling unit on a rural business parcel. So what happened, a little history here, is back in 2006, the first dwelling unit in the business was issued the permit for that, and in 2007 the second dwelling unit was issued a permit. And then over time in 2006 and then under LUV 162607 and 175512, the history of the land zoning has changed, and the uses that go along with that obviously changed as well. So this is a parcel that they're looking to split zone to help accommodate the replacement of a dwelling that was permitted there back in 2006.
Questions from council? Brian?
To what extent does it affect the taxes? Like by splitting that back to agriculture and the other one to retain it as rural ag business?
Oh, on the taxes, I mean, the parcel will be taxed for the use that is taking place on the parcel, not necessarily the zoning. So how this would affect the taxes in that area, I would say, I don't exactly have an answer on that. That's a good question. Lane, would you have any comments on that?
Well, if the land use is changing from one that is assessed on the basis of market value to a regulated value, then it would have an impact on the assessment of the property, which translates into a change in the tax level as well. If they're both going to be on the basis of a market value, it will have no change whatsoever.
Other questions?
Well, the structure is exactly the same. It just depends how it's valued. So. Right?
All right.
So wouldn't there
Right.
be a different mill rate applied to the one as opposed to the other? Yes, the market value is the same, but it's the different mill rate for the two different areas, right? Or am I misunderstanding that?
No, you're correct in that regard. If it's going from non-res to a res or agricultural rate, then yes, there would be a reduction in that regard.
Right, that's fine. That's all. I figured that. I just wanted that confirmed.
All right. Any other questions? No? All right, we'll move on to the third and final public hearing, which is on an agriculture to rural business.
So this is a similar situation here where we're splitting the zoning on an individual parcel. This is a rezoning of roughly 3.53 acres of a total of just under 6 acre parcel. It will be rezoned from agriculture to rural business to facilitate the operation of a fertilizer retail business on the parcel. The parcel is just west of Scandia, and it will be used as a satellite location for Independent Crop Inputs Company, which is currently located in the MD of Tabor. And again, the applicant resides on this parcel, but he also wants to operate a business on this parcel. We are seeing more and more of these requests to come in and split the zoning on parcels, and it is definitely on our list to have a look at what options or possibilities we have going forward to maybe accommodate some of these things, and maybe even look at making the land use bylaw or certain sections of it more flexible and usable for this. We've talked a lot in the department in the recent past, and other examples with larger farms and such, and people requesting to move even a third dwelling onto an agricultural parcel to help house some employees for larger agricultural operations. And that's another situation that we currently don't have the ability to do under our current land use bylaw, is allow another additional dwelling on top of the second one. So these split zonings, I think, definitely need to be looked at, and we need to reassess how maybe we can adapt the land use bylaw, because if we're sitting here and splitting these zonings on individual parcels, we know we're all right with people living where they do business. So we're going to do some footwork and see how we can accommodate that without splitting all these zonings in the future.
Questions? No other questions that I see people, no hands. So can I get a motion to move out of public hearings, please? Wayne moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, we'll get to the bylaws. And so for the IDP for special areas, I'm at second reading. Do we have someone ready to make a motion? Kelly will move that. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for third reading, Brian moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for bylaw 1977-20, the rural business to agriculture, second reading. Lionel will move. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for third reading, Clarence moves that motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Taking us to our final public hearing, bylaw 1978-20, agriculture to rural business. And for second reading, Anne Marie moves. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for third reading, Lionel? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Because I see Stuart is patiently waiting, we will go to his report. And then we'll have to have a recess. I'm freezing to death. I want to get a blanket and wrap up in it. I forgot this is a cold house if I don't move. So Stuart, wherever he is, I saw him once upon a time. There he is. Welcome, and please give us an update on this situation.
Excellent. Good morning, and thank you for your time this morning. Just to let you know that EOC, we had our first official meeting this morning at 10 o'clock. I thought the meeting went quite well. We had representatives from Grasslands, from Zana, Rosemary, and Duchess, from Alberta Health, from Daryl Prohibition, and we had representatives even from some of our utilities, Fortis Power, Regional Water, places like that. Pretty positive meeting, and I made sure that I didn't keep anybody too long, because in this time, everybody's pretty busy with stuff that needs to get done and keep moving on. Our meeting this morning was productive, but it was mostly on introductions on what they're doing right now. And as we move forward in this event, I'm looking for from them implementations on what we're going to do if this escalates, what the different areas are going to suggest be done, what kind of helps they might need. There was surprisingly a lot of talk about getting food to seniors today, and of course Grasslands that then by Matheson was on, and very, very helpful on things that she already has started the wheels turning on and getting things going. But for the most part, for instance, Bizzano said that right now their grocery stores and their facilities are okay. And of course, Bizzano has been fantastic on being proactive on securing places that if the hospital does start to get overwhelmed, where are those patients going to go and all that kind of stuff. So she does have a secondary site already in mind for that. So everybody gave a quick report on that. Hopefully tomorrow when we meet, it'll be more on how do we proceed, how do we move forward, and how can others help. I also gave everybody a report, not from the DEM side of things, but from the fire side or the first responders, and talked about the policies and procedures I've implemented on the first responders if they have to respond to these calls. Red Deer, our dispatch center, is doing a fantastic job of screening the calls before we get the calls. And the calls come in as safety alerts. And then we have our different levels, right? Our Alpha Bravo calls that aren't so serious. The firefighters are just going to stage and wait for EMS and see if that's needed. And then once we elevate to that Charlie call, which is more like your MVC, where people could be seriously injured and stuff like that, it's a judgment call on the firefighters, whether they're going to go in and respond to that. But at the end of the day, a quick evaluation needs to be done, whether or not we need to put precautions in place to make sure that we're going to stay safe, because we just don't know on an MVC or anything like that, whether or not. So I gave a report on that, and then of course the most serious ones, Delta and Charlie calls. I'll just finish off with that. The first responders are to go in, but I do have SOGs in place where they're wearing masks, gloves, glasses, visors down on their helmets. Typically they don't wear helmets when they do first response calls, but because the visor is there, that's an extra measure of protection, especially on heart attacks and respiratory issues where aspiration can happen. And we know that this disease is passed not through air, but through water droplets as they're coughing or doing whatever. So as they're administering the stuff that they have to, there's a better chance on those calls. So we have those protocols in place, and as well as decontamination after the call is over on the firefighters, not just them, equipment that is used during that call, including the truck, and how to clean it down. So that was the report I gave, very positive. And moving forward tomorrow, I really want to start talking about, the actions that we need to have ongoing for now, and if things were to escalate, and just kind of planning ahead on what happens, if things do increase and get worse, as it's expected it may. So we're doing that, and just putting in the back of their mind as well, once we come to a conclusion, always there's that re-entry, right? Or the recovery stage of what has to be done. And, asked our partners in particular, our water, hydro, gas, all those kind of things. The one thing that was relayed to me yesterday, and I didn't get that confirmation today, that was kind of hoping for, was on bills that need to be paid, mortgages, all that kind of stuff, because as people are isolated at home, they can't work, they don't have the money. So I was hoping to hear that from those partners on what was being done with that, and maybe I might hear a little more about that. So for now, I've requested that we have daily meetings just to stay on top of things as we go. But at the end of the day, I'm not too sure that we're always going to have daily meetings. We don't have to have a meeting just to sit there and listen to each other, rehash the same thing over and over and over again. So, but for now, because there's so much to try and cover and just get into place, I think it's good for us for the next little while, Monday to Friday anyways. And I've said to the group that unless something major comes down from the province on a Saturday or a Sunday, we won't do any type of conferencing then. But if something does come in, I'll ask to call for a meeting, and so that we can discuss it and see where our actions will be. That's about all I've got for right now, just because we're at the beginning stages here right now. So,
Thank you, Stuart. Questions? No? Good. Thank you for being available to update us. And Tracy, do you have a question? No?
Kevin waving at you over there.
Oh, Clarence. No, I mean Kevin. Jeez.
Yeah, Kevin,
Thanks.
sorry, that's what I was trying to tell you.
I just wanted to add a little bit extra from our end. There's been a couple Facebook posts. One was from an individual that was wondering how they would get groceries and possibly prescription drugs if they lived out in the county. So what we've done internally here is we're going to put a phone number to that and an email that people will be able to relay. It will come directly to me, so I'll get it 24 hours a day and be able to dispatch somebody to be able to do that. We've made that decision internally that people are going out and about and they'll be able to drop that stuff off as long as it's paid for, it's organized by the ratepayer. We'll make sure that they get it if they have no other means. So I hope that's okay in the short term. The next post on Facebook was from a fellow named Wade Clark. I don't know who he is. I don't think he's a ratepayer in our county, but he says, "Way to go, guys. Way to help spread the virus. All meetings should be canceled until further notice. The council is part of the problem now." So we're going to formulate a response to that. That basically, I'm the only person in council chambers here. There's no public here. They were allowed to come. We were going to enforce the separation. We have hand sanitization before they come in, when they leave. We have at least a 5-meter separation right now between us. All other staff are in another area that they have the separation. Council's separated, so I think we've done more than our part, but that's the kind of message that we receive on Facebook.
Anne-Marie?
Kevin, put my name on your list. If there is a call from my area, I'll go in and get their stuff.
Thanks.
Actually,
Put me on there too, Kevin.
let's see what Stuart has to say. He has his hand up on that.
I just wanted to add, Kevin mentioned Facebook and stuff like that. That was part of our conversation this morning, was the different groups and messaging and how do we get that out there, and how do we convey it and in a positive manner. So the direction that I gave was to send the messaging to myself, to which I would forward that to Lane, so that obviously it can be vetted to some degree. And then from there, things that are out there already will already be there. But anything that we haven't posted on the county site, hopefully we'll be able to be forwarded onto that site on information, you know, for instance, grasslands helping out, stuff like that. So, but the main key that I discussed with everybody was it should be the positive messaging is what we want to send out there. The last thing we want to be doing is creating any more panic than what's already out there, right? And trying to create that calm demeanor for the community.
Yes, facts are critical. Facts are extremely important these days, and there's lots available. Alberta Health Services, I think, are doing a very fine job. If you ever need any information to go to the site, and we know that every day they sometimes 3:30 they give an update and on the zones and what's going on, and they're I think people need to take a break sometimes from all that's on in the news. Kevin, thank you for taking responsibility for those things that you are. And yes, I think all of us in our own communities, we are sort of we can do that after a break too, but if there's people, it would be good to know who they are and how we can help them so that you don't have Kathy working too hard in her time off.
Yeah. She has to have something to do.
Tracy?
I was wondering too, can we put information too on our Newell Connect as a form of getting information out to our public? Like, because we have the city side and the county side on Newell Connect, and just a thought, if it's possible, that's another form of communication.
I would think that that's possible. Ariana, are you involved with Newell Connect much?
Not much.
No, it's more Mark and Public Works. Lane?
We are pushing information out through our social media systems and apps, and we'll make sure that we try and hit as many of those apps as we possibly can. One other thing that you might want to do in any interactions you're having with your ratepayers is
Everybody's still there? Or are you all frozen?
No, I think it was that. One thing we would encourage everyone to do is maybe reach out to the public to encourage them to just sign up for Newell Notify. Because Newell Notify is a system that we can, if we have emergency alerts that need to go out, it would send the alerts directly to the app of anybody that is registered with that system. So that's just another tool that everyone should be aware of and encouraged to use.
Okay. And that address is newellnotify.ca.
Newell Connect is one app where people can actually submit information to us. So it's outcoming to incoming.
Right.
Newell Notify is where we push information out to those that have registered for the use of that system. Both of them can be accessed through the county's website. There are links that they can go directly to through the county's website.
Okay. Anything else? All right. How long do you folks need for a break? Item 871. And Lane did explain to us, but we have to go through them one by one. So are we ready for the first one, 871?
Go ahead, Wayne. Molly's not paying attention.
I'm sorry, but I don't know if it happens with you guys, but sometimes my iPad, have so much open that nothing else will open until I clean it off. So, all right, Wayne. Sorry.
I'll make motion of first reading.
Okay, for 1980-120, that is Wayne.
Yep.
All in favor? Opposed? Is carried. For second reading. Lionel. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Consent for third reading. Is there anyone against consent? All in favor? That is unanimously passed. Did somebody who moved that? Kelly? Nobody did. Kelly moved that one. Okay, we're good on that one. So then for third reading, Ellen moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, moving on to 8.7.21 for first reading. Clarence moves. All in favor? Opposed? For second reading, Wayne. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Consent for third reading moved by Anne Marie. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Unanimously, that was too. And for third reading, Hubie, for third reading, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, for 1983-20, first reading, motion. Clarence? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Second reading, moved by Brian. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Consent for third reading to be moved by Kelly. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, we'll move to third reading. Mover is Anne Marie. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Scandia Pump and Control System, motion bylaw 1984-20, first reading. Hubie moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Second reading. Tracy, all in favor? Opposed? A motion for consent for third reading. Lionel moves. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? That motion is unanimously passed. For third reading, the mover will be Kelly Chrisman. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. We move on to Patricia Pump Control System. So Lane, is there something that you wanted to talk about with this one that's different?
No, it's just the same. Again, there's been consolidation and or subdivision that has occurred.
Okay. All right. So that is 8751, the first motion made by Clarence. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for second reading, Tracy, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Consent for third reading, Ellen moves. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? No, seeing none, we'll move on to third reading. Moved by Hubie. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to Rolling Hills Pump Control System. Motion for bylaw 1986-20, first reading. Wayne moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. For second reading, Tracy moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Consent for third reading, moved by Anne Marie. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none opposed, a motion for third reading coming from Lionel Just. All in favor? Opposed, that motion is carried. Rolling Hills Lift Station Replacement, motion bylaw 1987-20 for first reading. Hubie, all in favor? Opposed? For second reading, Ellen, all in favor? Opposed? And consent for third reading, Brian, all in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, motion for third reading, Lionel, all in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. Well, that wasn't too bad. So, is that everything on the main part of?
We still need to deal with item 10.3, 10.4, 10.5.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you. All right, this is the appointment of Intermunicipal Development Plan Committee members from Cypress, Rosemary, and special areas. So a motion for an appointment to Cypress County. Kelly,
I would make a motion to place Molly and Anne Marie on that committee.
I think that's special areas. Cypress, I think.
Sorry,
Hubie,
I'll change that to Clarence and Wayne.
Clarence and Hubie, I think, are the bordering folks.
Hubie.
Okay, I'll go with
The map,
Hubie.
Shelley.
Thank you, Kelly, for your motion to appoint Hubie and Clarence to the Cypress County IDP. Any further nominations? All right, all in favor of this motion? Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. The IDP committee appointment to Rosemary. Tracy?
I'd like to appoint Kelly and Ellen.
Kelly Chrisman and Ellen Unraw. Are there any further appointments or nominations? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is also carried unanimously. And the motion for the IDP committee for special areas. Lionel?
I'll nominate Molly and Anne Marie.
All right. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, that takes us to item 10.4, actually. Terms of reference for the Joint Services Committee. And there are some proposed terms of reference. So at this point in time, there's nothing in here that's definite. Excuse me. So Tracy or Lionel, did you want to make some comments, and perhaps we can talk about the decisions or the recommendations from last week then? Lionel?
Well, we talked about splitting IMDP off joint services day agenda, and that would open it up for other counselors to maybe be on joint services if they wished. And I'm not opposed to that at all. If somebody else wants to take a turn on the committee, that'd be fine.
The first document that's under item 10.4 are sort of, there's highlighted parts to it. And that was basically what we sort of came to rest on, that it would, no, that isn't. So we were going to recommend 2 members, I think. Tracy. God.
I think if I look at it correctly, Molly, I think that the document that we have that has the highlighted components are points that we're supposed to decide on. So like the first one, like, do we want it to stay as, do we want it renamed as the regional services, or should we keep it stated joint services? So anything in yellow were things that I think we were supposed to decide on as a council to further recommend. Because that these notes were after our last discussion, and then it went to joint services, and then Alan put in sort of the updates that we talked about then.
Okay. I thought that there was something a little bit more decisive than this stuff, but I'm obviously not. Wayne.
I've got a problem with the quorum, and it says each municipality had to be there, and that could handcuff it. I don't think that if one municipality decides not to show up for whatever reason, then you can't really have a meeting. So I would say that should be tweaked a little bit.
Tracy?
I think though this, I mean, I guess I suppose it could, but the joint services don't make a lot of decisions per se, right? They're there to discuss topics and make recommendations that go back to council. If there was, I guess, a situation where that there was a decision to be made, say, the economic development budget or something, that if it's still going to maintain under this identity, then that would be it. I don't know. I don't see an issue, but could be.
Any other comments? Anne-Marie.
Well, I wanted to go back to the name, and maybe it's not a big deal, but if we stick to joint services, then it's different than our regional boards, because further down there is a request to start with a priority, the waste management fees, and again, that's a regional board that is already in place that deals with that stuff. So maybe we should stick to the name joint services.
And I think that, well, I mentioned that too, and I believe that. I don't think that's an issue. Tracy, Lionel, do you guys? I think joint services will prevail.
I think it will too, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so too. And just to Anne-Marie's comment, if I could through the chair, that like my recommendation was that we could kind of just strike out with priority being waste management, but we could say that, you know, it's to identify opportunities to increase efficiencies through shared services and joint projects, and that suggestions could come forward that we look at one regional initiative at a time and not necessarily outline something specific, because to me that's more of an agenda item. If there's an issue, a municipality could bring that forward, something specific as that. So I would like to ask that anything specific like that be take note of the terms of reference.
Makes sense to people? Yeah, we agreed that we didn't want to go anywhere where there was a regional service committee already in place, that they handle that stuff, not us. But if there was something that we wanted to talk about that was of a regional nature, that wasn't a problem either. I've lost some of my papers, but we settled on having 2 members, I believe, from all of the municipalities, correct, Lionel and Tracy? Because one of them could be the administrator.
Yes, correct, yeah.
I do believe that one thing people wanted was this committee to continue in some shape or another. The membership around the table could vary, but the discussion is important. And I think we found possibly this morning with Barry coming in to have a visit with us, even if it isn't person to person, it's still better to keep talking. So, Kevin.
Okay, thanks. Not a brief. So I think this is on here. This was what was circulated to joint services. And then basically it's to include any other items that council has. I think it is coming back to joint services again. I'm not sure if we left it at 2 members for each municipality or whether it was going to be 3 county and 3 city, because when I look at my notes, it wasn't clear. But I know the other municipalities were going to be welcome to have 2, if I remember right. And they could appoint their CAO to represent them. So, because some of them, like Rosemary, only has 3 council members, and it might be difficult. I guess the point of this right now is to determine if there's things that we need to advance for consideration, that we have that discussion today and relay that back. I do think we talked about the quorum and removing that if the members weren't there, but I don't know if it's been finalized or not. They had talked about just having 50% plus 1. So if there's anything else that needs to be included in it or thought about, then this is the time that we can get it to, because that next committee is, I don't have the calendar in front of me, but it's the second Tuesday.
It would be April 14th. So we do have another meeting before that. Our next council meeting is April the 9th. So we can continue to carry that forward. Brian.
So my question is in regards to the quorum too. And is there a concern that you need to have at least 1 city and one county person available for there to be a meeting? I know, again, it's a question. It's not necessarily a comment, and with it not being a decision-making body, but is it relevant to have a meeting when either the city or the county is not present?
It's a good feedback, Brian, I would say. We could take that back, Lionel.
It would take it back, but I don't think we've ever had a situation where we haven't had representation. I don't remember a meeting without it.
No, we've had 3 people, so And sometimes we've only had 2 able to go. But if it became only 2 members, which is looking like it would, it might be important to have make sure that you have somebody sit in for you if you weren't going to be there. But I think it's something that we could bring up. Any other feedback? Wayne?
As far as that membership, making sure we show up, we should have it so it's flexible that you can ask somebody else to step in for the county or the city, or act for that matter for any member who's on that committee from the other municipalities also, because this isn't really a decision-making committee. So just make it as flexible as possible.
Yeah. Kelly?
The one thing that I notice is missing is any comment regarding expenses. I see the meeting starts at noon, so that must include lunch. So and then there's the use of the city hall or the fire hall. That's something to consider as well. There is a cost associated with that, with so many people coming in. So I think that needs to be a bullet somewhere.
Okay. Anything else? Tracy?
Yeah, I had questioned, well, at our level too, I wasn't sure what the feedback was totally about starting our meeting later, like at 1 o'clock, so there wasn't that added expense of the luncheon. You know, it's not a lot of money, but again, you know, it's one way that we could cut some costs. So I don't know if we want to, how everybody feels about that, if it's something we want to pursue or not.
And we never did talk about that, did we? That last meeting. Clarence?
Well, the luncheon may have a few dollars attached to it, but you might do some of your best discussions there also, and that's what this looks like this is supposed to be, is a bit of a brainstorming committee. And yeah, my experience is that lots of things get solved over lunch.
It's true. It's a friendlier way to start a meeting. All right. Don't see any other hands, so we'll continue to hopefully get something written down and bring back that's complete any day now. Clarence?
Ollie, how was it received as far as, you know, giving it a little bit of a structure, giving it some direction?
I think the mini munis are quite happy that they are going to be named as part of it officially. And the city, and I thought the city was sort of had similar approaches as Lionel, Tracy, and I had, that some changes would be good. And I still don't think that we figured out the IM or IDP part of it so quite totally. Because I do believe that Lionel and Tracy should be part of that IDP, like the ones we just set up with, you know, special areas and the other communities where we have the people impacted, or the residents impacted, represented by their area councillors. So I think we need to sort that out. But Clarence, overall, I thought the city was fine with the changes. Tracy, Lionel, any comments?
Yeah, I think everyone was quite open and receptive to it, and maybe there was, you know, some sort of relief that there was a little bit of structure to the outline of it. The IDP, we kind of talked a little bit but nothing was really decided on at all. We kind of did talk about that, having the 3 and 3, but nothing was, because we kind of talked about some of the issues we could deal through email, and that until such time as we had an application that was a little bit controversial, that we needed a face-to-face. So, but nothing was decided on that though. But that
No.
was some of the comments were made. Yeah.
Lionel, anything else to add? And then Brian?
Well, I kind of go back to, I'm asking myself, why are we making these changes? Is there something really fundamentally wrong with this committee? And not only that, if you're a committee member, are there dues to pay to be there? We haven't discussed that at all. That's part of this at all. If there are costs to having that committee, then perhaps we should share it.
You mean the hosting of it?
Just a thought.
Brian?
So two things. One, on the IMDP part of it, I think that maybe it's justified so you're not having staff coming in more than once. By that I mean our CAO or assistant CAO dealing with the IMDP part, having it the same day as joint services, but maybe start at 11:30. That way, if there is some overlap, Lionel and Tracy, I would suggest that you guys could hang out for that. And if we decide to put 2 other people on this committee for joint services point of it, you guys are only there for a half an hour and get on with your day. And that way, at least the staff comes in, our staff, city staff comes in, does the IMDP part of it. If they can stay, if they have relevance to the joint services, then they can stay for that. So that would be my suggestion. The other one, when it comes to the cost of it, how was it received as far as sharing the administrative part of it? Because to me, that's a big part of it. If you rotated that part every year or every few months, at least, then there's some continuity, and then some of the other communities share the cost of it also. As far as just the joint services, I'm taking the IMDP part of it out of that part of the equation.
I can't remember the discussion on the rotation. How did that go over? Tracy, Lionel? Kevin might remember.
Go ahead,
I
Lionel.
don't remember that particular part of it. I spoke a little bit against separating IMDP from joint services, because if I'm going to go to IMDP for a 15-minute meeting, that's quite a bit of wasted time. I don't mind going for both of them because you do spend a certain amount of time there, but just to go for a few minutes, that's going to be difficult.
I think
Tracy,
as far as the, well, and I was going to say, as far as the administration of the meetings, there was a suggestion about that it could be done annually. That so it would be like one municipality that would take it for the year instead of like switching it out every meeting, so that you have continuity on that. Again, nothing was really decided. Do you remember, Kevin?
Yeah, so I think the discussion there was the small municipalities were happy not to have that responsibility, from what I heard at the meeting. So whether it's moved around, I mean, that was the intent of it, that you would share in that and share in the workload. But I think everybody's happy the way it is from my read. Nobody was not happy with it, I guess. So, whether it changes or not will depend on the feedback, I guess, that comes. I think right now we share the lunches with the city. So we pay 1 month and then they pay the next month. So, I mean, that part is offset. And we did talk about the MDP a little bit, but of course the city, my understanding, is going through rewriting that on their own. So I don't know how they're planning to have that structured. So we may have to have that discussion again, because it might be totally different with the one that, I mean, we were pretty much done that process, and then it's sort of gone back to the drawing board. So I'm not sure exactly where that discussion's going to be. I know originally we had talked about not having to have meetings and doing circulations via email. And if there was a requirement for a meeting, we could call one. But because a lot of those meetings on the IMDP, they're not controversial and the city doesn't have any issues. And, you know, so I don't know whether or not we would need a special meeting all the time if there wasn't something that they wanted a meeting on.
Thanks, Kevin. And Kevin, so we haven't really talked much about that renewal. So as far as the provincial requirements, we have an MDP in place right now with the city. And so it's just a matter of renewing in the province's mind. Like, is that okay?
Yeah, so we meet the requirement now because we do have an IDP with them. It does need to be tweaked, I think, a little bit, but ours still suffices in the meantime. My understanding is that they weren't happy with it after the discussions finished with regards to the regionalization stuff. So I don't know exactly what's going to come on their agenda with it. And once we get it, we'll share it with council.
Right. Okay. Okay, thanks, everybody. Now, I'll defer to Lane to see if we're finished yet. I don't see anything else.
You have item 10.5, just an update on the ICF discussions with Rosemary, Duchess, and Brooks. I don't know if there's really anything much there to review.
Okay. I don't think there is. So if there's...
Kevin, were you wanting to provide a bit of an update as to the latest feedback that you'd had from Rosemary and Duchess?
Yeah, I don't think I need to provide anything other than what council already has. So I can await some direction, I guess.
All right. So we're wanting to have some further in-camera discussion today, I'm assuming, correct? Yes. So if there's nothing else on this agenda that needs to be talked about, Ellen?
Yes, I have an update on questions that were asked earlier regarding the NRTA.
Okay.
Be a good time to report on.
Yes.
I received an email back from the NRTA's executive director, pardon me, and she confirmed what I reported earlier. Her salary is mainly being paid by the Destination Marketing Fund, DMF for short, which is funded by the participating hotels. Now, the $20,000 that comes from joint services is partly being used for her salary as well. And I would like to just, it's very brief email, I'll just like to quote the email that she sent back. And it says, quote, "Yeah, Barry was incorrect. My wages are paid partly by the $20,000 we receive from joint services, and the remainder is from the DMF, Destination Marketing Fund, because I perform our marketing functions," end of quote. I hope that answers some of your questions. So it was exactly as I reported earlier.
Mike, how this all came about for me was, I think it had been suggested by our group. It would be great to see the day when organizations like NRTA were self-sufficient based on the money that they brought in from their destination marketing hotels. And so I had made that comment at our meeting, and that is when I was informed that that would never work because the DMFs or DMOs, whatever they're called, could not use their money in that way. So obviously that's good news for my thought that someday, hopefully soon, when the world returns to normal or the new normal, that the hotels will be able to increase the number of people involved in that tax, because that's what it is, to hire people to do their work rather than having municipal support. So that was what, that's how this all came about, I think. Thanks, Ellen. Okay, anything else before we're finished our meeting basically, but we were going to move back into camera. Seeing nothing, we'll let people move on and then we'll get back to work.
Will there be a motion made to move into camera again?
Oh, yeah. It's after lunch. Who would like to make that motion? Hubie makes the motion to move into camera at 1:53-ish. Every So the reason for the in-camera would be legal.
Yeah, so probably FOIP section 21,
Thank you.
intergovernmental relations, unless we have a different topic other than the ICFs.
No, that's all I'm aware of. Regards to committee and an extension, and Lionel?
I would make that motion that we appoint Clarence, Brian, and Kelly to a new committee, plus the ICF with the city and our stalemate there at the moment. And for the extension, how long did we want? I forgot.
3 months?
3 months? 3 months, okay. Add 3 months to the extension.
So we're asking for an extension from Municipal Affairs and appointing Kelly, Clarence, and Brian to an ICF committee with the City of Brooks.
And Matt.
And Matt. Okay,
That's administration, so it doesn't matter.
right.
Yeah.
Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And we also need a motion to approve, 2 motions to approve Duchess and Rosemary's ICF. Kelly?
I'll make a motion to approve using Kevin's direction, taking into account Kevin's direction.
the County of Newell approves the ICF agreement with Duchess, subject to an agreement being in place by March 2021. A new recreation agreement?
Correct.
Is that correct, Kevin?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
March
Kelly-
31st, 2021.
Okay. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And a similar motion for the Village of Rosemary. Don't all stick your hands up at once. Ellen moves. Go ahead.
So, sorry about that. Yes, so that is a similar motion than the previous one, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll repeat that.
County of Newell approves the ICF agreement with the Village of Rosemary, subject to a new agreement in place by March 31st, 2021. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. I think we covered it all. So we will adjourn at 3 p.m.